Hey comic book fans, welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. And fans, yes, you're back with me, Mike Spider Slayer, getting ready to do the countdown, episode number 125. Now, if you fans have never watched the countdown before, this is the show where I count down my favorite comics of the week and making my way all the way up to that top spot. That's right, fans. And so this week, everybody, we have a total of 18 books that I read this week. One book I actually forgot to stick on the countdown, but this book actually gets a really good honorable mention. Probably would fall in number 6 or 7, but I already got everything together. So just take in mind that Vision issue number 2 came out this week from Marvel Comics, and this book tends to have this very just this eerie feel to it, and it's just all about Vision and his family. And in the first issue they wound up getting attacked by the Reaper, and now they were kind of doing like a flashback of how the fight wound up going down in the house, and you wind up seeing that the son acted out in high school and visited Vision and his mother, and just some really crazy stuff that happens in that book. And at the end, it just kind of got you head scratching, going, what the hell is going on at the end of this issue? So if you guys are looking for like a different type of book, I would definitely suggest the Vision for you. It kind of has this real independent feel to it. It's nothing that I've ever read from Marvel before, something completely different. So really good book. I gotta give the book probably about a 4 out of 5 this time around, as this issue was a little bit slow in the description of the battle that happened between the Reaper, but nevertheless what happens after all that flashback I thought was really, really awesome. So definitely suggest that book to you guys. Alright, so now we'll get into the actual real countdown here, and the other books I have are all physical copied books that I read, and there were 17 left, and we're going to start with number 17. And this book got just below the 3-star mark for me, and this one was Harley's Little Black Book issue number 1. Now, I got these books. I obviously got this book for the actual variant covers that were inside of them, and I had no idea that J. Scott Campbell was doing this variant. I just picked it up off a whim, and when I opened it up, I got the sketch variant, and I was pleasantly surprised by this because J. Scott Campbell's my favorite cover artist, so I was like, hell yeah. So, but the actual book itself has Harley Quinn teaming up with Wonder Woman in it. And I've been on and off with Harley, and every time I always try to get into this series, I never seem to like it. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the lengthy dialogue or whatever it is, or I don't like maybe this version of Harley as much. But I think the artwork is good. But the story that had to do with her going to London and teaming up with Wonder Woman, and I don't know. It just didn't mesh well for me. I do think that the artwork is really nice in the book, and I think that the colors are really good in this book, but this book is just almost a little bit just too weird for me. She still talks to that beaver and things like that, and so I was just fine. I found it okay, and this is a story that you don't have to, I guess, really read to get what's going on in the continuity here, but nevertheless, I thought it was a cool cover to have and add to my collection. So after reading this one, I gave this one a 2.75 out of 5 stars. This Harley Quinn's just not, I guess, not my speed. I don't know. All right, so next we go on to number 16, and number 16 goes to All New, All Different Avengers. I rated this book 3 out of 5 stars. This book was average for me. Because, again, I said this in the first issue when I revealed this one, that I'm not a fan of this Warbringer character that's in the actual issue. I just find him like this very generic-like character. And in this issue, we get to see our heroes actually team up for the first time, which I thought was pretty cool, where you actually get to see Nova and you get to see Miss Marvel. And I like Adam Kubert's artwork towards Miss Marvel. You get to see her with a little bit more detail. She looks a little more grown up here. And And I like how Thor makes her appearance in the actual issue as well. You get to see some really cool pages in here with like Ultimate Spidey surfing on Iron Man, and Sam just carrying Miss Marvel around. But they got to stop Warbringer by getting these artifacts and combining them together, and we get this mysterious character that's involved in this second issue. This is cool, like I said, with Thor making her appearance, and we get this mysterious character in here that bought the Avengers Tower, and we're not really sure who this guy is at this time, but it looks like he's going to be a major player going forward, and it's this guy right here. So I'm not too sure what his ordeal is yet. So there's some mystery there, but overall, I mean, just them just chasing around this Warbringer character, I was like, this is okay. Nothing that's too extravagant, that's blowing my socks off. Very average story for me, and it concludes in the next issue, and I'm hopeful for the next story arc and seeing where these Avengers, where these cast of characters are going. It was good to see these characters unite with each other, but just not the first story arc that really gets me excited to read the book. But I really want to like this book because that free comic book day issue that you read, that was a phenomenal writing piece there by Mr. Mark Waid. So after reading this one, I gave this one 3 stars as well. So nothing there that, again, blew my socks off. All right, so now we go on to number 15. And it's come to the conclusion with me when it comes to Batman and Robin Eternal, it's just too often for me. It's too much. Every single week I get a Batman and Robin Eternal. I guess if you're a super duper hardcore Batman fan and you're really digging this story, you might be like, yeah, I can't wait to read it. But for me, it's almost just too much. And this time around we get to see Tim and Jason wind up going and meeting up with Bane, and they wind up fighting at first, but then by the time you wind up getting to the end of this issue, you wind up seeing them actually teaming up, trying to find out these mysteries of what's going on. You also get to see a past with Bruce and Mother actually interact with each other. She actually knows his secret on who he actually is. And by the time you wind up getting to the end of this issue, you get thrown with a familiar face at the end of here. And we get Azrael at the end with his flaming sword. And I thought that cliffhanger was badass. I thought that was really cool. And of course, it makes you want to continue reading the book. Obviously, the artwork is pretty solid in this issue, and it's been pretty good throughout when it comes to Batman and Robin Eternal. However, besides that end of that last page, I kind of felt bored with the issue, and I don't know if I'm getting bored with the story or the series or whatever it is, but I'm just not as intrigued as I once was, and that tends to happen with these weekly books. When it came to Future's End, I loved reading it because it was so bad, and I loved making fun of it. So this one, it's not bad. It's just I'm getting a little bit dragged down by it. So after reading it, I gave it 3 stars for me. It was just okay, and it's kind of the same for me in the last issue. It was okay, but we'll see where it goes. All right, next. I always like stuff that's fresh and keeps me entertained, and even though it's a good cliffhanger, it just throughout the story I didn't just find myself intrigued by it. All right, so now we go on to number 14 this week, and number 14 goes to Gotham Academy, issue number 12. I like this series, again, and I said this once before, I like the series a lot better when you read it in trade. This book, you just start getting into the story, and then the story ends, and you have to wait for a month, and I don't feel like you can get as involved into it as you were when you were reading the trade. Because I read the first trade. I actually read the first 9 issues back to back to back to back, and I was really heavily involved in the story, and I really enjoyed it. And this really is a good mystery story with maps involved and Olive trying to find out, who Calamity is or how her mother became Calamity. And in this issue, you wind up finding out what happens with Calamity, who's trying to find out who studies her and things like that. And then by the time you get to the end of the book, you wind up finding out in this one that it's going to tie into Robin War. And so if you want another Gotham Academy story, a true one, I guess you're going to have to wait to issue number 14. And from what I heard, there's going to be a new artist on Gotham Academy as well. So it's a good book. It was a quick read this time. They had to also rescue Kyle because he was captured, and he's the tennis star in this. So that's why also I like him, that character in there, because I play tennis. He plays tennis. So, hey. But it's a good read, but I didn't find myself, again, just overly intrigued by it. I was like, okay, this part of the story arc ended. Now we're going to go on the Robin War. So after reading Gotham Academy, I gave this one 3.25 out of 5 stars. Very quick read. Nothing much to this particular issue, in my opinion. All right, so now we go on to number 13. And you guys might be surprised by some of these picks this week by me, but this is just obviously how I feel within the week. And number 13 for me was Invincible Iron Man, issue number 4. As much as I love this series and how gorgeous the artwork is inside of it, this issue was highly anticipated for me. I couldn't wait for this ever since it was announced that Mary Jane was going to be in this issue and she was going to be in the Invincible Iron Man title. And seeing this cover, I was like, wow, this is a great looking cover. I can't wait to see what's inside. Well, in this issue, you wind up seeing Iron Man doing battles against these ninja warriors, and he's talking with what's he called, Madame Mask, and Friday and everything else in here, and he's doing this battle against these ninjas, and we get to see him change into this samurai armor. And as much as I love Iron Man's armor and in this series, I wasn't fond of him changing into a samurai. I thought that was kind of generic and kind of cheesy. And I was like, really? Samurai Iron Man? I'm like, come on now. This is something like I would see in an action figure, And you spend most of the issue him trying to, talking with his AI, and they had this charity event to go to with sick kids, and Tony was arguing with himself where he couldn't push it off any further, and it was all very touching and everything, and this book was dedicated to a child that was sick, which was very touching, and I loved it to death. But at the same time, I'm at the end of my book yet, and I have 2 pages left to read, and Mary Jane finally gets introduced into this issue, and you find out that she left New York and is living in Chicago now, and opening up another new club called Jackpot, which I thought was pretty neat. And she's announcing to the world why she moved and everything else, and all of a sudden now, right away, you get this thug that shows up in her club, and Madame Mask shows up in there, and then at the very last second, Iron Man and Dr. Doom show up in the last panel, and MJ's just like, why? Why does this got to happen to me? And so that's how the book ends. Now, hopefully, obviously, we'll be seeing more of Mary Jane in this. I thought she would have a different direction, not doing the whole nightclub thing again, but I guess maybe this is the end of her nightclub career, or is this just a misleading cover if she's not going to work for Tony? I'm not really sure yet. We'll see what happens with her character in this series, but I hopefully her character continues to grow here. And but the story itself was just very lackluster until the very end, where it had to do with Mary Jane. And all of a sudden, Tony gets transported with Dr. Doom to fight Madame Mask. So, and I felt like it did very little to progress the story overall. So I didn't think that the writing was that great in here. And they had to actually put this child's story in here to fit it in this issue. So I think there was just a little bit too much here. I think that the Mary Jane storyline should have been like an individual issue. That's my opinion, but that's why I was a little bit disappointed with it. So Invincible Iron Man gets 3.5 out of 5 stars from me. So hopefully the progression goes a little bit further here. I still don't know anything more than I did pretty much in the first issue about Madame Mask and Tony Stark going after, what's going on with Dr. Doom. So it's a very slow burn story. All right, so now we're going to go on, and we're going to go on to number 12. And number 12, everybody, this week was Spidey issue number 1. Guys, this book is a book that I had no idea what to anticipate. Is it going to be classic tales of Spider-Man, but told towards an adult, or is it going to be an all ages book, or is it going to be for a younger reader book? And so when I opened it up and I saw the artwork in here by Robbie Thompson, I thought that the artwork was pretty nice. I liked it personally. I thought it was a good book, and we had some good characters in here, like Green Goblin, like Sandman, like White Rabbit in here. So I thought it was a nice looking book. And you get to see some good modern take of Spider-Man on how Gwen Stacy is today, if she was coming around today, and how Spider-Man deals with social media, and I love that element of it. So this book really does a good job at having classic Spider-Man, but with a modern feel to it. It's almost like a reboot of Ultimate Spider-Man in a way, but it's not Ultimate characters. It's just your regular characters. So I thought it was pretty neat. I liked it. It will be interesting to see where this series actually goes. And this is a really good book to introduce Spider-Man to your kids. If you have kids and you want to sit down and you say, hey, you guys want to learn about the original Spider-Man and have it feel modern so they can understand it, this would be a perfect book for them. So obviously, in the end, I'm going to give Spider-Man, for me, I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. As a huge Spider-Man fan, but I still think it's a worthy book to pick up just to see the direction they go with this and to kind of throw in that classic element to it. So, cool book. All right, so next we go on to number 11, and number 11 this week, guys, goes to Pluto Nuh, issue number 3. That's right, guys. This book is pretty neat, but it also has very little progression, and that's kind of the theme of this area or tier of books right now. Pluto Nuh has been pushing this thing about there is this fallen superhero that is dead, lost in the woods. These bunch of kids, they come and find him, and they find her, and they come to a conclusion that they kind of want to bury her. And what happens here is that they were all going to meet and bury her, and then we find out that the body is missing in the issue. And this book has got some very simplistic art. It really appeals to me for some reason. But what happens in the issue is you wind up finding out that Tommy, and this guy here, Tommy, winds up being he's this superhero nerd. He knows everything about the superheroes. So what happens is he kind of drags the body away when his friends weren't around. And we find out that we have this little flashback before the woods happened and everything else. But he drags the body, and he winds up taking Pluto Nuh's finger and cuts it open, and he cuts himself open, thinking that he's going to gain superpowers that way. So you can see that happens in the actual issue. So it will be interesting. He's just like, yeah, I wonder if I'll get superpowers. And he tells his brothers here, and he's like, you want to try? It's your turn. And so he's hoping to be the next superhero. Now, if this goes in that direction, I think that's pretty cool. If he actually changes into a superhero, like, how is his friends going to accept them? Are they going to realize that he's changed? His only accomplice here, or his only witness, is Mai's little brother. Does he become a sidekick? Like, what happens in all this? The possibilities are endless. So I like the ending to this book. It finally gets a good cliffhanger to say, okay, now we're going to get some progression in this story besides this dead superhero who's in the woods, So I like the ending in it. I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. All right. So going forward now, we're going to go on to we're going on to number 10. So we cracked the top 10 now, and we go on to Paper Girls, issue number 3. That's right, guys. Book gets weird. And same thing. Book doesn't have very much progression in here. I got text, so let me check my text real quick. Okay, just the tennis thing. All right. So, Paper Girls issue number 3. Very little progression, but again, this book gets actually it's weird, and it starts off pretty badass because we wind up finding out that this place is just getting weirder and weirder. There's all kinds of things, and the book opens up with this guy who's like, "Dude, I'm tripping my balls off," And they think that the world is coming to the end. You get to see some weird creatures in this book, which the artwork is just phenomenally gorgeous and very creative. And just Brian K. Vaughan's imagination just blows my mind. But we get to see this mystery character come on like this Pteranodon or whatever, and he looks like he's trying to do some research. Like wherever he is, he finds himself like he's in a different dimension or a different portal or whatever it is. And we find out that Erin gets shot based off of the last cliffhanger in the issue, and her friends have to go and try to take her to the hospital in this weird world right now. It's super crazy, you know what I'm saying? So what happens is you see all these flashbacks that she's going through while she's in and out of consciousness, skating with Ronald Reagan and whatnot, and then they come across that mystery character. And the mystery character actually has like this translator where he puts to his throat, and he winds up saying that he can help Erin. But just as we get this help, the alien winds up getting shot, and then it comes across to these original creatures that they ran into in the beginning, and they finally reveal themselves, and they say, "Hey, we're just like you. We're teenagers." And I'm like, what? I'm like, what the hell is going on in this book? I'm like, dude, I don't know what's happening. I need some answers. This is it's like a big acid trip. I can't take it anymore. You get this capsule that erupted everywhere, and there's strange shit flying around in the freaking galaxy or in the world or whatever it is, and it's just like weird people coming down, and we don't get any answers. There's just so little story progression. Like, what is going on, I need to know more. This book would read good in trade, because it's just like every time you're starting to get into it, same thing. It's just like, oh man, really? And it's just like, I'm 4 issues in and I know nothing about what's going on. Like, where are they? How do they have to get out? What type of people are they dealing with? Like, really weird stuff here, man. But after reading Paper Girl, same thing. I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Very creative book, but I don't have any answers to what's going on right now. All right. So next we go on to number 9, and number 9 goes to Robin War, issue number 1. This is the standalone issue, and then they'll have an issue 2, I guess, at the end of it. This book was $4.99. This is a pricey book. It was lengthy. I didn't feel it needed to be $4.99. I thought it could have been a normal book. The story was a little dragged out, in my opinion, here. And why is my camera? There we go. So I thought the story was a little bit dragged out. You pay for that glossiness. Quarter of the Owls thing, pretty neat. You open up to something that you don't want to see a Robin doing, is pointing a gun right at you, the reader's face, right? This book was very heavily involved, as you get to see a councilwoman actually create this Robin law. So anyone that's dressed up like a Robin is going to be arrested. Now you find out that this councilwoman is very corrupt, and she wants to be part of the Court of the Owls. You get to see very different types of artwork in this issue, as there was different artists throughout the issue, which kind of threw it off a little bit. That kind of, I didn't like that part of it. I think they did a good job at trying to introduce some of the characters that were from the Robin War book. But I didn't realize that there were so many different types of Robins in this issue. For instance, when it comes to that artwork, it's hard to make out who's Jason Todd, who's Tim Drake in the issue, and then what happens is you wind up finding out you wind up finding out that there's hundreds of these Robins, led by Duke, and they're all having this meeting and whatnot. And Damian finds out what's going on. He's trying to stop this from happening, telling that these guys are a bunch of idiots. You look like a bunch of morons, and you need to go home because this is going to be a big, major problem. And these Robins all take offense to it. They all wind up going after Damian in the issue. And the thing that made this book for me was this one panel, and the panel has Robo Bunny Batman jumping in, and he realizes that there's all these Robins in here. They got to be arrested. They're breaking the law. He doesn't realize who Damian is, and and he goes up to Batman, and he goes, and who the hell are you exactly? And Bunny Robo Batman goes, I'm Batman. And Damian just looks left, he looks right, he looks left again, he looks at Batman, and he goes, you've got to be kidding me. And I love that part of the book because it's kind of like DC poking fun at itself, going, this can't be the real Batman. This has got to be a joke, And then they wind up starting doing this battle against each other. And it was really, it was pretty cool overall. Damian escapes in the end. You wind up seeing Grayson making his appearance. And it feels like this is a ploy for the court to get Grayson back in town because they have a goal for him. It looks like that they possibly want him to be Nightwing again. So, because they have his mask. So, I thought that was pretty cool. The book is good. I thought it was lengthy, a little bit drawn out at times, different artists. So, it did definitely have its flaws here. But I got to give this one a 3.75 out of 5 stars. Looking forward to the tie-ins. We'll be reading more. Again, didn't need to be $4.99. Didn't need to be as long as it had to be. So that's a problem with these comics. They're trying to do anything they can to charge $5. All right. Next, now we go on to number 8. And number 8 goes to Extraordinary X-Men, issue number 3. Now, this book was pretty cool this week as it had to deal with Jean Grey and Logan meeting together for the first time. And you get to see Jean Grey talking to Logan, trying to persuade him to actually get back to the X-Men in this actual issue. And Logan's scared because he comes from the future where he destroys the entire X-Men race. This book was pretty solid as it had to deal with a lot of fighting, but almost too much fighting. It was this fighting that had to do with the X-Men dealing with the demons from hell that have to do with magic being knocked out. So there was a lot of that going on, which I didn't really enjoy all that much. And what the issue did not touch on was we got to see Mr. Sinister last issue, didn't get to see him this issue, and we did not get to see what happened with Nightcrawler as he was missing his tail in the last issue. So it kind of just, left you hanging with those topics there, and just had to deal with Logan and Jean and the whole X-Men just defending their X-Haven. So it was a solid issue. It was good. The artwork is solid. Roberto Ramos does a great job with these characters. When I sit there and show you the artwork here, there's just a lot of action, a lot going on in this book. And again, when you had these X-Men dealing with what was going on in Limbo, it was like, okay. But when you had these scenes going on with Jean and Logan, I thought those were pretty good scenes there. Love the facial expressions. So after reading this one, I give this one probably a 3.5 out of 5 stars. All right. Next, we go on to number 7. Number 7 this week, guys, goes to Daredevil issue number 1. This book, for me, got a 4 out of 5 stars. If you were looking for the last run or anything comparable to the last run on Daredevil, you're not going to get that here. This book is very dark. It has to do with maybe 3 colors: gray, black, and red. And you get to see that throughout this whole entire issue, as you get to see this 10-finger gang try to kill one of their gang members because they're going to be a witness in court. You get to see the powers of Daredevil being used in this particular issue and how things work underwater and whatnot. And Daredevil had to rescue this guy because obviously he's the lawyer in trying to capture this 10-finger gang. So Matt Murdock lives in New York now. He doesn't live in Los Angeles anymore. And it seems like everybody forgot that he was Matt Murdock. There was some kind of spell or something happened, and the only person that does know that he is Foggy, and that is mentioned in here. And we get to see this new character introduced with Blind Spot, but we're not sure if he's villain or foe. It looks like he's a double agent in this issue. When it comes to even Foggy, he was a lot darker than I could have anticipated in this series. But it was a good book. I love the interactions. I love how Matt Murdock works in an elevator shaft. And it will be interesting to see what happens with this series and how they deal with this whole 10-finger gang, as this guy actually has 10 fingers on each hand. And there's that double agent of Blind Spot. So, pretty cool book. It wasn't bad at all. I just didn't expect it to be something so dark, but I think they're going more of the TV route now because we had so many people read Daredevil. It makes sense for them to go into that darker route. So instead of the lighter route that they went in the previous series. All right, so next we're going to go on to number 6. Number 6 this week goes to Nova. Issue number 2. I love Nova. I think this book is really well done in many ways. I love the artwork in it. I think the writer's doing a nice job with it. And this is a very grounded book. Even though Nova is a cosmic hero, I feel that Sean Ryan does a nice job at keeping, this book, on Earth. And that's what I love about it. And I love the relationship that Sam has with his father. But we found out in this last issue that his father is not quite what he seems. And I don't know what's wrong with him. But we get to see Sam actually have like this normal life. He tries to go hang out with kids, going mini golfing with them, and his mom's sitting there, okay, gotta be, careful. You got Nova duties, you got school, you got this. And then you get to see Sam's dad, Jesse, go with a coworker to try to find out what's going on in the mines as there's been this accident. Well, when they blew up the mine to think that they could capture the creature, we get this crazy like sandworm-like creature. And I was like, dang, that thing is insane right there. And as Jesse calls for his son, we wind up seeing that these two go in action here. And this was a really cool one-page right here. Pin-up page of these two right here. And we find out that they're doing battle against this creature, and Jesse's helmet doesn't work still, even though we think he actually got it fixed. He gets torched by the creature, and the cool thing that's revealed at the end of this is that yes, Sam's father is truly not exactly as it seems, because when he gets to check on his dad, he sees that his face is all distorted and messed up, and he goes, he's just like, whoa, who are you? What's wrong with you? And all this guy has to say is that you have to stop this alien creature. You got to go. Do what you got to do, as he's like crunching his face back. And I was just like, oh my God, that's insane right there. So he fights this creature. The creature's very generic. Obviously, this is a small thing compared to what things are going to come in this series. And when he goes to check up on his dad is missing, and he doesn't know where to go or who to check. So I thought this issue was really cool. I'm enjoying Nova just as much as I did when the first volume came out. Obviously, this is centered around his father, and he has this close relationship with him. But this just missed the top 5 just because I thought I had some, cooler books this week. And this has a cool mystery on still continuing to find out the mysteries of his father. So 4 stars out of 5 for me. All right. Next, we go on to number 5. So we hit the top 5, and we go on to all new X-Men issue number 1. I'm a fan for Mark Bagley's artwork, as you get to see him, do the artwork in this book. And I loved him on the Doc Green series, on Hulk series, and he does a good job in this issue as well. Right away, you get to see the series continues with Angel and X-23's relationship in here, which is nice. And they don't overdo it; they make it fun, and you get to see that these X-Men are traveling and they're trying to find Scott. That's what they're trying to do. And you get to see that some are in certain places of the United States. Hank is in Florida, in the Everglades with Kid Apocalypse. And these are the X-Men that actually, traveled from the past. And so they're trying to find young Scott Summers in here, and he's been off the grid for months and months. And so we see that Scott's trying to fit in, trying to do like his normal everyday life. And we find out that there's these people that kind of worship Scott, and they call them the I forgot what they're like Cyclops fanboys or whatever they are. And so we wind up seeing these different versions of how they worship like Scott Summers. They all wear like his Cyclops mask and everything else, and they start attacking the city. And I was just like, these guys are crazy, man. So it was cool, and you get to see some cool dialogue between this girl and Cyclops himself. And it's not what he wants. He kind of walks away from her, but he tries to do this investigation on these guys. And I thought it was a really fun book. I really did. I like seeing young Scott Summers, try not to fall into the trap that he was. And the funniest thing about this book is that these X-Men, this version of the X-Men here, they travel in this like Winnebago, like this little trailer, and you get to see it on the outside. But on the inside, it's like this freaking mansion. I was like, holy crap, dude. It's got this eat-in kitchen. It's got a living room. It's got a downstairs. I'm like, no way on the outside does it look like that. So I was like, is it a hologram? Like, what's going on there? So I thought it was really cool to see this. And Scott Summers go berserk and use his powers, and you find out that the X-Men go after him in the end, and and they try to rescue him. So really cool back page there. So this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this book. I can't wait to see where it goes. I don't know how I feel yet, if I can compare the two X-Men books yet. I really like the first issue of Extraordinary X-Men. I might like this book a little bit more because I do like Bagley's artwork better. So we'll see where this one goes. I gave this one a 4 1/4 out of 5 stars. All right, so now we reach in and we go on to the top 4. And number 4 goes to Star Wars issue number 3. This is or Vader Down Part 3, Star Wars issue number 13. As we wind up seeing this cover here, which is actually a little misleading, as you see Vader do battle against Princess Leia, or do you? So what happens here is we wind up seeing Aphra try to capture Luke Skywalker. The art here by Mike Deodato once again is brilliant. And we get to see that this issue is kind of dedicated to the droids, as you get to see these two R2 units kind of go battle after each other. And I think it's DD, that's this droid right here. He's this arsenal, and he just has all these weapons, and he starts firing after R2-D2 in here. And I was just like hysterical by it. And you wind up seeing Han Solo and Aphra meet up with each other as they fight against each other. And you wind up seeing 000 and Chewbacca go after each other as he constantly rips his arms off and starts hitting the droid with his own limbs, which I thought it was hysterical in the issue. And it just, no matter what they did though to this DD Astro Droid, they couldn't get rid of him. He starts flying around. He starts shooting at him. They just funny things that happened in this issue. And, by the time you get to the end of it, you wind up seeing Han Solo actually captures Aphra. You wind up seeing that this R2-D2 actually wind up prevails against DD. And then you wind up seeing that 000 winds up getting a lightsaber to the belly. So at the very end of this issue, you wind up seeing Leia trying to go after Darth Vader with her rebels, and finally, at the last page, you get her face-to-face with Darth Vader, which is the coolest page in the book right there. And I'm just like, oh, damn, what's going to happen now? Because his words are, good evening, princess, you know? And so after reading that one, I gave this one a 4.25 out of 5 stars. I like this one better than the last issue. Really good, a lot of fun. You know, it's very fitting for that Han Solo type of book, you know, because he has got that comical tone to him, and he's got the droids and Chewbacca that he always has to deal with. So good stuff. A light issue into probably which is a dark series. All right, so next we go on. We go on to the top 3, and number 3 this week, guys, goes to Totally Awesome Hulk. Totally Awesome Hulk, guys. Yeah, it's your number 1, dude. And I can't believe the title of this, but I really enjoyed it. This book had me laugh. Now, I think this can go both ways for fans. You can have a very open mind to this, and you could get a lot of laughs and have a lot of fun to this book. Or this could be the type of book that you're like, this is totally stupid, bro. You know, because it is over-the-top humor, and it changed the whole dynamic of what Hulk has always been in the past. And a lot of people did like that Doc Green series. So this book here has to deal with Amadeus Cho. And he's the 8th smartest man in the world. And we get to see him be this, obviously, this typical 19-year-old kid as well. Being the Hulk actually takes toll on him. He has to eat a lot, and he's very risky about being the Hulk. He's very overconfident. And when he becomes the Hulk, he not only becomes even more egotistical than he actually is, but he actually, I guess, becomes a little stupid too, because he doesn't make the greatest decisions in the world. And this book is written by, I think it was Greg Pak, and Frank Cho does the artwork. And the artwork in here is really well done. I love Cho's artwork. I think it's brilliant. And I love the coloring in this book as well. But they have to shrink down these gamma-rated creatures and capture them. And they're working for S.H.I.E.L.D. And in this issue, though, we don't get too much of what happens to Banner in this book. All you find out is that he kind of sacrificed himself by sucking in all this extra radiation, and it basically killed him. Or do we think? You know, we don't know yet. You know, there's a lot of mysteries there. We also don't really know how Amadeus really truly became the Hulk and why he volunteered. However, there is a flying meat wagon in the issue, and you wind up getting to see him meet with his sister and work with his sister. And he gets very mad as he gets compared to Banner. He doesn't want to be like Banner because Banner, I guess he looked at Banner as kind of the competition because he was very smart as well. So I thought it was quite interesting there. By the time you wind up getting to the end of this issue and he kind of has a realization of, you know, okay, I got to try to be serious. I got to do things the right way. You get to see him kind of dream in here, and we're not sure what this representation really means yet. Is this the true beast that's still waiting to be unleashed? You know, we can't really tell yet, but that's what this, I think it's kind of implementing. Ultimate Spider-Man makes an appearance in the book, and Jennifer Walters does too. And there's some great dialogue in here between Jennifer Walters and Amadeus, how he's poking fun at her as he's saying that she's like 40, and she's like, I'm not 40. I'm like, what are you considering me old? You know, so funny stuff. And then they do this battle against this lady Hellbender at the end of the issue, and he's just like, everything's fine, but he's kind of like, but she's fine if you know what I mean, you know. And his sister's like, oh God, what am I gonna do? So this book made me laugh out loud. I had a very open mind to it. And I didn't think it was going to be as funny as I am. I'm kind of stupid funny. I like that hilariousness type of books that are like that sometimes. And this one drew it to me. So hopefully it stays entertaining and that the humor doesn't continue to be totally way out there, as I feel that could get old. So hopefully it continues to be good. After reading this one, I gave this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars. All right, next. We go on to the top 2. And number 2, everybody, goes to Savage Dragon, issue number 209. This is the highest on my list in a long time for Savage Dragon. But this is a marriage issue, and he finally gets married to Maxine in this book. And, you know, he had to grow up real quick. Within the past 8 months, he's found out now that after he had his little threesome with his stepsister, his girlfriend, and his ex-girlfriend, shit just got real. The stepsister was pregnant. She had an abortion. This one is his girlfriend who's pregnant and winds up getting married. And we find out something that happens to the third one here, and I'll show you in a little bit. But this is a good issue as we wind up getting to see, you know, my longtime favorite artist, Spider-Man artist, Eric Larson, draw this marriage issue. And, you know, you get to see these two get married, and we see great interactions between characters in here. You get to see a lot of cast of Savage Dragon that you've known over the years. I thought Maxine looked gorgeous here. And it was a very touching issue. You know, you get to see them get married. You see how their love for each other was in this issue, how much they truly do love each other. And, you know, they kept on hinting at things of, you know, what the ex-girlfriend that wasn't there was Tiara, but they're kind of exiling her from their lives because she's the one that created all the drama between, you know, Malcolm Dragon and Angel and everybody else trying to, you know, steal a sex tape and try to get famous from it. She said that she was pregnant and then she faked the pregnancy. And so, you know, that's why they didn't invite her. We had this whole story with Maxine's parents as they didn't approve of their marriage, as they wanted to her to get married to a Japanese man. You get to see everything that happens in a wedding in this issue. And I thought it was really fun and a great time. And we wind up getting to find out that Tiara is actually on the train, and you know, we find out that there's been rumors of him getting married and things like that, and she overhears it, and she's crying, and everything. All of a sudden, some things get really, really dark, and the next thing you wind up finding out, this is straight from Alien, is boom! The real hand comes out of the stomach, and she's like, ah! You know, and then you find out that, yes, she was not faking the pregnancy. It was actually real. At first she said she was pregnant. Then she's like, no, I'm not pregnant. And she just kind of walked off on her own. But she has been pregnant this whole time. And baby dragon winds up coming out. And he or she is pulling, you know, you get to see him crying. And is pulling Tiara out the subway train through its umbilical cord, and she's just laid dead. I mean, it's down the stairs and everything, down the street. How nobody sees this, I don't know, but it was just a totally dark ass moment in a very bright comic book. And at the end, it winds up them, you know, in their honeymoon in Hawaii, and that's how it ends. And you're just like, oh damn. So now you got a little Savage Dragon baby running around, and Maxine is pregnant with his baby, but she supposedly has this device that's not going to happen. And we got baby dragons running around. Dude, this was crazy-ass issue. I really enjoyed this book, and I was shocked by the end of it. Very well-written book overall. Best issue I read with Savage Dragon in a long time. I gave this one a 4 3/4 out of 5 stars. But what got number one this week? Number one was a book that needed some change in a long time. And we've said this over on Comic Frontline and things like that. And I am so happy it's going back, or it seems like it's heading in that path now. And that goes to Green Lantern issue number 47, as I got the Darwin Cook variant cover this week from Harley's Little Black Book. So love the cover here. It's just absolutely gorgeous cover. It's the inked version. And this book gets back to Green Lantern here in a big way. And the book opens up with a whole bunch of yellow lanterns, or a couple yellow lanterns, and they're like, we have to inform Lord Sinestro, you know, and they're getting chased. And you wind up seeing that there's this battle that happens between these two yellow lanterns in there, and it looks like Hal Jordan's face in there, and you're like, oh damn, what's going to happen, you know? But right away it goes back to the spaceship and they go to Earth, and Hal wants to go and check up on Earth, and he wants to go and he wants to check up on his brother, because ever since everything that's happened to all the Green Lanterns, since they've disappeared and things like that, he feels that he needs to go home. He hasn't been there in a long time. He tells his friends to wait in the spaceship, and just make sure everything's okay. So the next thing you wind up seeing is that Hal comes home. The police go after him because he sets off the intruder alarm and whatnot. And then what happens is he meets up with his brother. He hasn't seen his brother in a long time. And he's like, did the Green Lantern Simon Baz come? And he's like, I haven't seen Baz in a long time. And so the dialogue here was really good. And he goes, so you replaced a Green Lantern Corps member with a $100 alarm system. And he's like, no, it was actually $500. So you got to see some good moments there between the brothers. And it's funny how they mention Baz, because where the hell has that guy been? I mean, seriously, what a waste of a creation of a Green Lantern. But then nevertheless, though, he's just like, what happened to your hair and everything else? And so he's like, instead of having me have a bad influence, on my kids and them having, long hair, he's like, I need you to shave and I need you to cut your hair. So yes, everybody who was pissed off that Green Lantern has green hair or long hair, he's back to short hair Hal Jordan once again. So he's getting back his normal everyday look. So now what happens is they go to an amusement park. They meet up with the kids. They're having a good time. All of a sudden, all hell breaks loose at the amusement park as Hal has to use his gauntlet to try to stop the Ferris wheel from falling. And it's got his niece and nephews in there. And, he's using all the power to keep them alive. And what happens is one of the kids is unconscious, which is Howard. And the next thing we wind up finding out is that it flashes back to what happened in the beginning of the comic, and we see that the yellow ring is actually malfunctioning, and we wind up seeing who killed those yellow Corps members, and we find out that Parallax will bring the dawn. And I was like, damn! I'm like, hell yeah, it's Parallax. Hal Jordan possessed Parallax, who's probably from Convergence, but this is the version from the late 80s, early 90s books from Zero Year Time. So I was like, hell yeah, man. So it says Parallax, Sonar, and Batman are going to be in the next issue? I don't know, but it's just like this version, Parallax realizes there's no Guardians, protecting the Earth, so it feels like he's going to be the one. This version of Parallax is this, cocky, feels like he's all powerful, and I was just like, that is awesome. That is a truly awesome ending. I could not expect a better and more awesome ending to this book, because this really brings back what Green Lantern is, man. He cuts his hair, he dumps the people off by the spaceship, he visits family, he goes home, fucking Parallax is in here, and I was like, hell yeah, this is a really good book. And this deserves that 5-star book, because it shows me that things are heading back on track for the character, if you weren't a fan of where he was right now. So it could have some of the new elements in there with the old elements mixed, and I can deal with that. That's okay. He just needs to be home a little bit more often. Too much in space. The last issue that I gave a #1 ranking to was, I think, the second week of the year where Green Lantern actually visited Carol Ferris. And that book had to deal with him being at home as well. So this is the second Green Lantern comic all year that is getting that top spot, and I feel is worthy of that top spot to being possibly nominated for Comic of the Year, which will be on one of my groupings for Road to Comic of the Year as well. So this was a really good book with an awesome ass cover. Couldn't recommend this more to a lot of Green Lantern fans out there. So guys, there you have it. There are the books for the week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. You've seen the worst, you've seen the best, and you've seen all that other stuff in between. So now it's your turn, the fans, to put what your favorite comic of the week was, what your least favorite comic book of the week was. And fans, as always, thank you for watching Comic Book Corner 2.0. Until that next comic book review, this is Mike Spider Slayer signing off. And thanks for watching, guys. Take care. Bye.